The New Neighbor on the Hill. Bedtime Story. In Hearthstone Hollow, peace was measured in familiar sounds. The hum of bees, the babble of the brook, the rustle of leaves in the grandmother tree. But one morning, a new sound arrived, a sharp, mechanical growling that echoed down from the overlooking ridge. A sound that spoke not of growth, but of breaking. A sold sign, bright and red, stood at the top of the hill. Trucks had arrived. A developer named Sterling had bought the land, with plans to clear it for a row of modern, gleaming homes called Ridgeview Estates. To him, the ridge was a view to be sold. To Leo, it was the hollow's gentle crown, the source of its clean water, the path of the morning sun, the shelter from harsh winds. Elara found Leo staring up at the hill, his shoulders tight. "We could protest," she said softly. "We could put up signs." But Leo felt a different instinct. "Fighting noise with noise just makes more noise," he murmured. Bramble leaned against his leg, a quiet press of solidarity. Moss gave a low, uncertain whine. Maybe he just doesn't know what he's overlooking. The invitation. Instead of a petition, Leo wrote a simple note. He walked up the dusty new track on the ridge, where a man in a clean shirt stood barking orders at a bulldozer operator. "Mr. Sterling?" Leo held out a jar. It was golden, warm from the sun, filled with honey from the hives that now hummed a nervous tune. Tied to the jar was the note. "Welcome to the neighborhood." The view was even sweeter from below. "Come see where your water comes from. Tea at 4. Leo, from the hollow. Sterling, a man used to offers and counteroffers, looked baffled. He took the jar, nodded curtly, and said nothing. The demonstration. At 4 o'clock, Leo didn't wait on the ridge. He simply lived. He and Elara were in the bee meadow, carefully checking frames, their movements slow and reverent. Bramble was chasing, but never catching, butterflies in the clover. Moss was asleep in a pool of shade, twitching with rabbit dreams. The brook sang its cooling song. The whole hollow was breathing its late afternoon breath. And Sterling came. Not in his truck, but on foot, hesitantly, down the hill. He stood at the edge of the meadow, the jar of honey still in his hand. He watched. He saw Leo handle a frame dripping with bees, his bare hands steady and calm. He saw Elara point to a hawk circling on a thermal from his very ridge. He saw the firefly oasis, now a small, glowing nursery in the shade. He heard nothing he was used to. No engines, no demands. Just life, living together. Leo looked up and smiled. Not a triumphant smile, but a welcoming one. He pointed to the guardian lantern, glowing softly on the porch. Beside it, 2 cups steamed. The conversation. They sat on the porch steps. Sterling was quiet for a long time. "It's very quiet here," he finally said, not unkindly. "It's full," Leo corrected gently. "Listen closer." And they did. The breeze through the pine needles became a whisper. The drip-drip from the spring became a drumbeat. A chorus of frogs from the wet meadow began their evening song. "I was going to name the streets after these views," Sterling admitted. "Pine Vista. Brookside Drive." "You still could," Leo said. but maybe the views themselves are worth more than the driveways. That ridge, your bulldozer is sitting on the wildflower patch that feeds my bees. The rain that falls there becomes our brook. What you build up there, it comes down here. He wasn't accusing. He was explaining a connection. The surprising alliance. Sterling sipped his tea, made with mint from the medicinal hedge. He watched Moss amble over and rest a chin on his knee, offering trust without condition. He saw the light in the lantern begin to hold its own against the deepening twilight. "I'm not a bad man," Sterling said, his voice quieter now. "I just build what people buy." "What if," Ilera spoke from her seat on the rail, "you built something people didn't know they needed until they saw it? Not fewer homes, but different ones. Homes that listen to the hill, instead of shouting over it." The idea began to glow, fragile as a firefly. What if the Ridgeview estates had wildflower meadows instead of sod lawns? Rain gardens that fed the aquifer instead of storm drains? Covenants that protected the bee flight paths and the dark skies for the fireflies? Sterling, the developer, began to see not just lots, but a living neighborhood, an extension of the hollow, not a conquest of it. The new plan. He didn't promise to stop that day. But he left the lantern-lit porch with the honey jar empty, his head full of a new sound, the quiet, thrilling hum of a better idea. Weeks later, the bulldozer left. New people came, not with more machines, but with native grass seed and sapling trees. Sterling became a frequent visitor, not as a developer, but as a student, learning about root systems and rain capture. Leo had not fought. He had shown. He had protected his peace by offering it as a gift. That night, Leo wrote in his journal, as bramble and moss slept tangled together in a pile of contentment. The new neighbor came today. We did not meet him on the battlefield of the ridge. We met him in the soft territory of the possible. You cannot defend beauty with a wall. You must defend it with an open gate, a cup of tea, and the courage to believe that even a busy man might still hear the sound of a brook, if you offer him the silence to listen. And so, dear listener, as you drift to sleep, think of the hills in your own life. Where do you hear the growl of change that frightens you? Could you meet it not with a shout, but with a demonstration? Could you offer a jar of honey instead of a fist? Remember, the most powerful protection is often an invitation to understand. True peace is contagious. Offer your gentle, firm light. You might be surprised who chooses to step out of the noise and into its glow. Good night. May your dreams be a sanctuary, and may your heart always build bridges, even to those on a different hill.